My topic is entitled OMG, Adolescent Spiritual Religious Development in the Age of Facebook. Adolescence, why do I want to look at adolescence? Well, historically, throughout different cultures, adolescence has been a time where there's been a rite of passage in many cultures and many religious, and until to this day, that there's something that might happen in adolescence. And I wanted to look in this day and age where students are connected to each other virtually, and where they have more information at their fingertips than ever before. What is the impact of this on their spiritual religious development? What I did to go about this, I'm only going to focus on the last one, figuring you all know how to read. I compiled a survey containing a creative writing exercise, one short answer question, and 31 multiple choice questions that I administered to both parochial and public high school students. The creative writing exercise was a blank email from God, supposedly. And the two-line was left blank. From said, from God at god.com, subject blank, body blank. And I asked students, there were instructions, please fill this out as you deem appropriate. The one short answer question was, when in your life did you feel the most connected to the world at one or in the presence of God, howsoever you understand that word? And then the survey had many multiple choice questions. The survey looked at questions such as, looked at these and many, many others. The only one I want to highlight right here was, I asked them, how well do you enjoy magic tricks? Do you like being fooled by them? How much do you need to find out? How did that trick work? And the reason I looked at that was, well, that has to do with spiritual development. How comfortable are you with mystery and not knowing? A lot of the other ones, I just wanted to look, was there correlation from any one of those to their spiritual religious development? Findings. I felt most connected when you'll notice there's one, boom, right up there. There was only one category when I asked students where it was they felt connected, calamity. That was the only topic where more than one student felt that they connected to God, howsoever they understand God. And that's going to come in very important. This next slide has a lot on it, and I'm going to break it down. I asked students in 3 different instances. There was one listing of notions of God, second listing of notions of God, third listing of notions of God. And I asked the students to pick which one in each of these categories did they feel was closest to their belief. The first set of questions was based off.
I'm completely embarrassed to tell you, but the video camera at the presentation cut out at that exact moment. I'm going to continue to narrate, to tell you the information using the slides from the presentation. I'm glad you're still watching, and again, my apologies.
There are the 3 notions of God here on this slide. I'm going to go a little bit slower as there's not the video of me to explain. The first notion of God on the left column, those are taken from a Baylor University survey of 2006. Middle notion of God, I will explain. Third notion of God on the right side are from Oser and Scarlett, 1991. I'll explain that in a little moment as well. Notions of God 1. These are, Baylor University said that there are 4 different types of God that Americans by and large believe in. Those are angry, benevolent, critical, and distant. Most interesting about this is that one student who said that God is angry, vindictive, and willing to inflict divine retribution is also the only student who I had in my survey who had marked that he had, I know it was a he because of the survey, that he had carried a weapon, driven without a license, and hit or threatened to hit somebody. He was the only one with that much deviant behavior, and his notion of God reflected that. Also interesting about this Notions of God 1 is that 2 students, the far left, they didn't even answer. Students answered every single survey question with the exception of here, 2 students did not feel comfortable pigeonholing their God beliefs into these 4 most common categories, all of which I will note are pretty external categories of the divine. Notions of God 2 are, that's the middle column. Those are ones that I, in my studying, in my doing spiritual direction with people, have seen that people liked more. And my students who I surveyed here, they tended to agree. You'll see that 6 of them put, and the little orange arrow shows which is indicated the favorite category for God. That 6 of the students liked that better than the Baylor and better than Oser and Scarlett's categorizations of God. Also interesting in Notions of God, too, is that there's a lot of students who put God is love. And you'll notice that the Catholics in mass, pun intended, all voted that God is love. Now, what I just showed you with Notions of God 1 is that there was one Catholic student who said God is angry, vindictive, and willing to inflict divine retribution. Well, we know that that child doesn't actually believe that God is love. So why did they put God is love if they don't really believe that? My understanding, my hypothesis here is that students, much like the rest of us, are very susceptible to advertising. You tell somebody enough, this is how things are, this is the right answer, that's what we'll believe. Third Notions of God was Oser and Scarlett, 1991. They came up with that there are 5 stages of faith development that all people go through, starting with all the way on the left, external active, and you'll see I have no students for that, and all the way on the right, God is a verb. And this is a notion of predicate theology, that God doesn't exist outside of ourselves, but God is in our actions, in our interactions, that we are Godding, to use God as a verb. The other 3 that the students answered, you'll see first, it was regardless of denomination, and second, that the students hit a very nice bell-shaped curve. Most of the students answering that people need to take care of themselves whether or not there is or isn't a God, and that's going to be continued on the next slide. In this slide, we're looking a little bit more as to that middle column, and here's the same exact graph, but looked at a little bit differently. The red indicate children who, going back to our first one where we had children who were witnessing or experiencing the divine through a sense of tragedy, red indicates that these are students who connected to God through calamity or tragedy. Green indicates that their connection through God was not, they were any of the other categories, that they did not connect to God, howsoever they understand that, through tragedy or calamity. What's most interesting and striking here is that if a student did not connect to God through calamity, then they did not believe that people need to take care of themselves whether or not there is or isn't a God. Now let me explain a little bit further on the next slide. In this slide, I'm taking a look to see whether or not a child's sense of having experienced more tragedy in their life affects their spiritual religious development. Red indicates that the student had self-assessed that they had experienced many more tragic losses in their lives. Yellow was about the same number of tragic losses, and green fewer tragic losses. And you'll see children who believed that they had experienced many more tragic losses than their peers felt less connected to their spiritual religious life. This makes a lot of sense to me, as children who have gone through a lot of calamity don't have the vocabulary, don't have the maturity yet to make sense of what they've gone through. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please get in touch with me if you'd like. Bye-bye.